If you ever feel out of control around food, you're not alone, and you're in the right place to learn practical, no-nonsense information about why you binge and how to stop. Binge eating does not mean that something is wrong with you. It's a natural but primitive brain response that you can correct. If you're ready for change, sign up for the Brain Over Binge self-paced online course for less than $20 per month. And if you feel you need personalized support, we also offer one-on-one coaching and group coaching. To learn more, go to brainoverbinge.com/subscribe. And I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to the Brain Over Binge podcast, where you learn a simple brain-based approach to ending binge eating. I'm your host, Kathryn Hansen, and for those of you who may be new to the podcast, I'm the author of Brain Over Binge and the Brain Over Binge Recovery Guide. I also have a blog and other information on brainoverbinge.com. And there you can also get a free 30-page PDF called the Brain Over Binge Basics that can help you get started in recovery. There's also a link to that PDF in the show description. On today's show, I want to give you some advice that I hope will help you stay on a path to ending the binge eating habit as life is very gradually returning to some level of normalcy. I had a hunch a while back that as gyms and group workout classes and other businesses related to weight loss and fitness started to reopen, that there would be an increase in cultural pressure to diet and sort of get back in shape after quarantine. I thought there might be a dynamic that in some ways resembled the increase in dieting we see around the new year. Because people tend to eat poorly and overeat during the holidays and celebrations leading up to the new year, we all know that there is an increased focus on dieting in January as a way to sort of start fresh. In episode 63, Binge Eating Recovery During a Crisis, I talked about the fact that even normal eaters were feeling off with their eating during isolation, and possibly engaging in more overeating and eating lower quality foods as well during their extended time at home. The way our culture is with dieting and body image, I figured that it would not be long before the conversation shifted to starting fresh or trying to compensate for those poor eating habits during isolation or getting back on track with weight goals. And sure enough, I've started to hear those messages. Twice in just the past few days, I've heard or saw ads promoting the loss of the quote, quarantine 15. When I heard that term for the first time, I knew I had to make a podcast to talk about this and to encourage you not to be tempted to diet as isolation lifts. If you listen to the podcast, you know that I believe restrictive dieting is a failing strategy and it's very harmful for binge eaters. I did an entire episode about not dieting in the new year in episode 30, No Resolutions to Diet. If you're feeling tempted to diet right now, it may be helpful to go back and listen to that episode because even though it's not the new year, you don't want to fall into following any cultural messages that say you should be focusing on weight loss right now. The reason the term quarantine 15 kind of hit me and prompted me to make this episode has to do with my own dieting history. I'm going to rewind to quite a long time ago when I first started trying to control my weight by limiting my food intake. It was the summer between my sophomore and junior year of high school, and my older sister was preparing to go away to college. That summer, I heard the term freshman 15 on several occasions, and I think that it actually played a role in encouraging me to turn to dieting, which eventually led to binge eating. For anyone who may be unfamiliar with the term freshman 15, it's an expression that refers to the idea that college students tend to gain weight during their first year of college because of possible lower quality eating, more drinking, more stress, less exercise, or other factors. It's often accepted as fact, and it can cause a lot of anxiety for people going away to college. But research actually shows that the freshman 15 is a myth. And studies show that typical weight gain in the first year of college is less than 5 pounds. And by the third year of college, weight is usually back to baseline levels. I'm going to link to an article in the show notes that has some good information debunking the myth of the freshman 15 if you do want to learn more about that. But as a teenager, I did not know that the freshman 15 was not a real thing. And my sister didn't know that either. And hearing warnings about the freshman 15 contributed to my newly developing idea that it was my job to control my weight. If I would have continued eating normally and taking care of myself, my weight would have taken care of itself. But because I dieted restrictively during my last 2 years of high school, I began binging toward the end of my senior year. So when I did go to college, that binge eating habit caused me to gain much more than 15 pounds during my freshman year. Ironically, it was the act of trying to control my weight by not eating enough that eventually led to extreme eating and made me gain a lot of weight during my freshman year and beyond. I mentioned in my Recovery During a Crisis episode that most people will likely look exactly the same to you after isolation, except that they might need a haircut. And I've definitely found that to be the case. I mean, it's possible that some of my family members and friends and people on social media have gained a bit of weight, but if they did, I certainly cannot tell. The term quarantine 15 is just a catchy advertising phrase. The words sound similar, they kind of rhyme, and it's likely inspired by the freshman 15. If you hear this phrase or anything similar, don't take it as any sort of fact that people have gained a lot of weight in quarantine and that now we all need to do something about it. It's of course easy to tell whether or not you personally have gained any weight during quarantine, but even if you did, dieting is still not the answer. If you've been binging during isolation, then the answer is to focus on ending that habit. Getting the extreme eating out of your life is what is going to help your body reach its own natural healthy weight. A diet is only going to make things worse by slowing your metabolism and increasing your urges to binge. If you have not been binge eating during isolation and you've gained weight from overeating or increased drinking or eating poor quality foods or exercising less, then the solution still does not include dieting. The solution is simply to help your body balance itself by focusing on taking care of yourself and nourishing yourself and adding some natural and whole foods into your day and maybe reducing drinking or working on getting better sleep or reducing stress. Those are much better ways to help your body balance itself than going on a restrictive diet. When you honor your body, your weight can take care of itself without you feeling like it's your job to keep tight control of it. Yes, there may have been some factors during quarantine that affected your eating and lifestyle habits, and that may have, in turn, had an effect on your weight. But the last thing you need to do right now is put yourself through the additional stress of a diet. We've been through a lot, and we're still going through a lot. And this crisis has affected us all in different ways, and in many of the same ways as well. And you need healing. You don't need to punish yourself by going on a restrictive diet. So what if your eating has not been perfect over these past several months? No one's has, but you will come back into a balance that works for you. If you have not been eating well during this pandemic, or really at any time, you'll probably naturally feel a pull to start nourishing yourself better. You'll probably start craving healthier food, just like you'll likely feel a pull to get a haircut if you have not had one for a while. You may feel a desire to go back to the gym when it reopens, or you may feel a desire to safely engage in some group exercise, or to start buying more fresh foods once your favorite places to eat and get food are more accessible. And there's nothing wrong with these things. There's nothing wrong with following your intuition toward better health. If you're a regular listener of this podcast, you know that there's a big difference between taking care of your health and dieting restrictively. To help you avoid dieting, I have one last podcast episode that I want to mention, and I'll link to all of the episodes that I've talked about here in the show description. And that episode is episode 33, Challenging Your Motivations to Diet. It can really help you to look at the reasons why you may want to go on a diet in a way that allows you to see that those reasons are not valid and not helpful to you. Once you see that your desire to diet is based on faulty reasoning, it's easier to avoid it and to stay on a path to freedom from binge eating. Before I wrap up the show, I want to remind you that you can get 4 free audios from the Brain Over Binge course in a new course preview, which is linked in the show description. You can also check out that free preview by going to brainoverbinge.com and clicking course in the main menu. I also want to mention that if you don't feel like you need the full course, but just some extra help staying focused and motivated, and maybe you feel like you need some reminders of what you need to do to end the binge eating habit, you can click coaching audios in the menu of brainoverbinge.com. You'll see a preview of these audios, you can listen to one of them, and you'll see the topics of all 15 of the coaching audios. These 15 audios are included in the full course, but also available separately at a low price. If you're interested in these coaching audios, now is a good time to get them because the price is going to go up on July 7th. The reason for the upcoming price increase is that I've decided to include Lesson 1 of the Brain Over Binge course with the coaching audios, because Lesson 1 gives you a strong foundation in understanding the concepts of the Brain Over Binge approach so that you can use the coaching audios more effectively. So from now until July 7th, you can get Lesson 1 included with the coaching audios for no additional charge. And after July 7th, the price of the coaching audios will reflect Lesson 1 being included. You can find a link to learn more in the show description. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen today. I hope you're doing okay through all of the challenges that you're facing. Even when times are difficult, I want to encourage you and remind you that you have the power to change your brain and live a binge-free life. The Brain Over Binge podcast is produced and recorded by Brain Over Binge Recovery Coaching, LLC. All work is copyrighted by Brain Over Binge Recovery Coaching, LLC, and all rights are reserved. As a disclaimer, the hosts of the Brain Over Binge podcast are not professional counselors or licensed healthcare providers, and this podcast is not a substitute for medical advice or any form of professional therapy. Eating disorders can have serious health consequences, and you are strongly advised to seek medical attention for matters relating to your health. Please get help when you need it, and good luck on your journey. Need more help? You can find all of our current and upcoming options for support at brainoverbinge.com.